Hello, Africa. Tell me how you doing. We had a test just now, and now we're live, and this is the real time that you've been waiting for. It's a time, as I always say, a time to shine. That's been my rolling theme throughout the year, which is really about, as an individual, it's time for you to shine on the platform and in life as well. Show your passion, show what your purpose is as a company, as a best place to work, and lastly, as a talent acquisition professional, to bring in the best talent. So I got you the best talent that LinkedIn has at attracting talent. Hi, Brandon.
Stuart, thank you for having me, man.
Welcome, welcome. Our global head for recruitment is in the building. I had posted out and told you guys that we'd have this interview. So, Brendan, let's start off with a LinkedIn tradition.
Okay.
Something that's not on your LinkedIn profile that you're passionate about.
Okay. So something not on my LinkedIn profile that I'm passionate about is that I've got a little hip-hop instrumental album out right now.
Oh.
You can get it wherever you get your music.
Oh, you're kidding. You're telling me?
It's called Both Hands is the name of the album, and you can find it under DJ Blue. So Both Hands.
Both Hands, DJ Blue?
So yeah, there's one thing.
And Blue spelled out B-L-U-E.
You got it.
You're rapping on it?
No. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that tells us a little bit about yourself. And so great to have you on this platform. So great to give our African audience an opportunity to understand what are some of the trends and best practices and things that are happening in your profession, which is talent acquisition. Let's start off with trends. What are the global trends that you've observed so far?
There's a lot of change happening in talent acquisition, without question.
Yeah.
A couple things that are happening. Obviously, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. And what does that mean for automation, and how much is a bot or AI going to do of my job today?
Yeah.
So that's a trend in terms of conversation there and tooling out there. But the sort of flip side of that trend that I like to talk about is, yes, technology is going to continue to become an instrumental part of our jobs and our lives.
Yeah.
But the human parts of recruitment, I think you'll see more and more of a trend around. We have something we call master storyteller training, where we really take 2 days and sort of brick by brick build you to be an incredible storyteller about, in our case, LinkedIn, but bring who you are into the conversation with a candidate. That's an art and a science that I think there will be a massive premium put on as we go forward, because largely on the open internet and on LinkedIn, it's not terribly difficult to find a name. But for me to get your attention, I got to be special. I have to tell you something, share something with you. You're going to say, you know what? I get lots of communication. I'm going to talk to this guy, Brendan. So that's happening, and I think you'll see more of that being a trend.
Okay.
Having recruitment sort of drive and think about sort of what people really need in terms of things like flexible work. How should work be constructed to make recruitment easier to attract you to my company? I think that's a humongous trend that is happening more and more. And then probably a third one I'd throw out there, not a new trend, but data and insights. Do you have the ability to look at a bunch of data and understand the insights in there, so I can go to you as my CEO and say, hey, you know what? I think what I'm seeing in this data is we shouldn't be in this particular city. I think we should be in this city, in this region, because there's more available talent there. The right skills are there. So the more and more data is available, the better we as recruiters need to be at drawing insights and then bringing them to the business leaders we work with.
Wow. So those are 3 trends that you've spoken about. I like the flexible work because I've really gone through that sort of transition myself. This is my 8th country that I've lived in.
Wow.
And of course, what's always been attractive for me is beyond the pay, the compensation, the type of work, is that ability to move from country to country, experience new cultures, and infuse myself in the economies that I'm trying to do business in. And I think a lot of businesses are missing out on that point of flexibility. And you see it with the retention, with the retention and attrition numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting one because anyone out there who's in recruitment, I can't implore you enough to step up as a leader. You know what needs to be done. I mean, I talk to recruiters all the time, say, oh man, I lost this candidate. The person needed some more flexibility. Well, get some data and go share that with the business. Say, hey, we are not going to be competitive unless we do these things and take them seriously. If we don't do them, just realize that this is what might suffer. So finding your voice as a recruiter, regardless what level you're at, I think is something that the business really wants to see from us, and it's a really cool and fun opportunity to truly have a seat at the table, or whatever cliche you want to. It's game time now. Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be in this profession for all these reasons.
Right. You talked also about personal branding, and of course the ability for people to tell a story.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're trying to? The future means that a recruiter is more of a marketer. Is that what's happening?
I think in the context of storytelling, I think the answer is yes. I mean, you probably have mixed reactions from people if you say, hey, is a recruiter a marketer? But ultimately, I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
And they're much like marketing. There's many channels to get your message out there. There's many ways to use different types of content for different types of audiences.
Right.
And then how do you convert those things into a conversation, an applicant, an offer, a hire? So thinking like a marketer. So it's interesting. Some of the people I have gotten a lot of mentoring coaching from are people I consider world-class consumer marketers, digital marketers, because I mean you're prolific on the platform. I mean, I should be talking more to you, but there are the ability to get your message out there. I mean, there's no barrier to entry to get your message out there. And you got to get comfortable with all right, there are various ways that I need to be serious about getting my message out there. Don't fail to be yourself. Be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. But I would say if you're not embracing things like video. If you're a writer, start writing, put a pen to paper, start typing, post ideas, reshare things with your own little commentary on it. You can take baby steps, but getting your message on a recurring basis in front of the right audience is the name of the game. So
that's it.
So once when I do reach out to you, you can say, oh, you know what? I actually saw that post you had, or I saw that video about what you guys are doing in Dublin. And then boom, we're into a conversation.
It's not the old traditional, hey, we have a job, want to have a chat with you. No. Are you available? Let's talk.
Absolutely not.
Because if I'm really top talent and I'm out there and I'm thinking, well, have you done any research into me, or it's just a name you picked out of a hat, right?
Exactly.
It's got to be personal.
You got it.
That's the era we're living in. Wow. I love this. So much to absorb in the first couple of minutes. I like this. Are we getting questions online? And what kind of questions are we getting online?
We just got some general comments from people saying, amazing to have you online. Brendan, love hearing your insights. No questions as yet.
No questions yet.
We're here and we're waiting.
Oh, super, guys. Shout out your countries. Please tell us where you're coming in from, so that we can also share the love with Brendan. Africa is known for being really, really loving and welcoming. So you can hear it online already.
Yeah, let us know what's working. If you've got tips I need to know, or if you've got challenges you want to throw out there, happy to dig in.
Yeah, and funny you should say that. When you're talking just now about putting yourself out there, oftentimes you look at a recruiter's profile on LinkedIn and you'll find that there's no picture, and it's not really personal because people are saying, well, this is not me, I'm not comfortable doing this. And the advice I've been giving people is go for reverse mentoring. If you've got someone in the organization, whether they're junior to you or not, pick up the phone, spend some time with somebody and say, listen, coach me around this. How do I get to it, or learn how to do this?
We've got a great question that's just come in from David, who joins us online here. He says, how do LinkedIn manage diversity and culture across different continents? Is it something that has a uniform strategy?
That one's for you.
That is a big question. I would say a uniform is probably a strong word, but I think there's obviously an overarching strategy and set of beliefs that we have. So diversity for us, we sum up as diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which I think is something that is a little bit different than maybe how other companies articulate their philosophies / strategy. So net, the answer is yes. In that there are surely different situations, culturally, socioeconomically, talent pool wise, government wise, in different regions. So that I think the answer is yes, but it's all couched against diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And just to give you a quick way we define that, diversity we think of as sort of the mix statistically of do we have people from different backgrounds and like what does that mix look like statistically. That's
Right.
important to look at.
Okay, that's one. Leading with data, of course.
Leading with data.
Right.
And that's necessary, but we feel like that is not completely. Inclusion would be great. We've got a good mix of people, and then you've got an invite to sort of be included. So maybe I get.
I'm sorry about that. Carry on.
Yeah. So the second being inclusion. So the idea of inclusion, if you will, is got a mix of diverse folks. Inclusion would be like everyone gets invited to the meeting. That's good.
Yeah.
But really where things become really important is that's also necessary but not sufficient, because I could be on a diverse team, get invited to the meeting, and I might feel like I do not want to be at that meeting. I don't feel like I'm comfortable in that meeting.
Right.
People aren't engaging me in that meeting. So belonging is the idea that you show up in that meeting and you're like, I'm me and I can be myself.
Yeah.
And people engage me for who I am.
Love it.
And that takes a lot of effort. I mean, I think no matter who you are, I mean, I've been in meetings myself where I'm like, I am not going to open my mouth in this meeting because I feel like I don't belong in this meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of the three pillars or three components of how we think about diversity, but it definitely varies by geography and by sort of mix of talent and mix of.
These guys seems to be picking up calls, but how do we deal specifically with when we think about diversity bias? You know, so it's bias is a human thing, right? Whether we like it or not, we kind of judge each other in the first 8 seconds of meeting each other. So how do we stop bias in a talent acquisition capacity?
Well, one I think is there's training and things like that I think people should put themselves through. I can share my personal experience. What's helped me is be comfortable enough to spend time with people that I don't understand or don't understand their point of view. And for us, you know, there was a meeting we had a while ago where some people internally were willing to come in and share sort of their stories. Yeah. Which were, you know, they were difficult stories to listen to. But I can tell you, after that meeting, everyone walked out of there with a different perspective on life in general, life at LinkedIn. Right. And hey, I had no idea that this person was going through that experience as an employee or as a candidate or in life. So I think that is absolutely really important. Right. Other things for me is really trying to get as much feedback as you can about yourself, right? And being reflective about, you know, kind of what your own fears are about things. Yeah. And find people that could get uncomfortable. I mean, I remember there was a time at LinkedIn when I met with a set of employees that had very different backgrounds than my own, and I was afraid to ask them certain questions. Yeah. And I know, but I just sort of spit it. Yeah, I just sort of spit some stuff like, "Hey, how should I talk about this topic?" What do you? And I was scared. I was afraid. I didn't know if that'd be like offending them. They're now my friends. I mean, over time they've become my friends. So you have to take a little bit of risk, whether that's a tiny bit or if you're comfortable diving in. Yeah. So exposing yourself to different things, I think you have to. I mean, I feel like even just meeting you, I'm gaining new perspective just through the conversation we've had. And so that tells me we should do more of that, because I will learn more about what your view of the world is. Yeah. And that will make me better at my job and probably make me a better person.
Oh, I love it. That's why I love traveling as well, because the more you travel, the more you understand, the more you learn, and become more accommodative of different ways that people do things and different ways that people react to certain situations. But ultimately, what I get from you on that topic around, you know, the things we're uncomfortable about is talk about it. Yeah. Have that conversation, make yourself vulnerable, ask. Yeah. And you'll learn that, look, this is why people view certain things the way they do. Yeah. All right.
Question in here online. So in relation to the DIBS conversation, what is LinkedIn doing to help gender diversity within our recruitment?
So gender diversity is a priority for us, as sort of all facets of diversity are. So we've really had focused effort and focused commitments and goals around making sure that we have diverse slates of candidates across all dimensions of diversity. Yeah. So that's one thing. I feel like me as a recruiter, at the very, very, very least, what I need to do is bring a diverse slate of candidates to the table.
Right.
And hopefully we make some good hiring decisions after that. But that's sort of one thing I can control in the role I'm in from a recruiting point of view. Mm-hmm. What we've seen as we do that is if we continue to commit to bring a diverse slate of candidates to the table over and over again, the results do in fact come. And then we do have a lot of discussions. So we have women in leadership groups across the company, women at LinkedIn. So we've had multiple conversations with them to just get us smarter. One example of something that I think was small but massively impactful is one of our leaders, very senior leader, was learning in his time here about how often women could be interrupted in meetings, as an example.
Oh, okay.
And he, in
There's
one
a
meeting,
science to this?
There's a little bit of science behind it, and he had stopped this meeting when this woman that worked on his team was there, and just said, "Hey, hang on here. She's trying to make her point. Please finish making your point." And my understanding is after that was a moment that really was impactful, one of the most impactful moments for that woman's career, to have someone recognize this dynamic. Yeah. Which prior to that, I don't know if this leader was aware of it.
Okay.
So through conversations and through training, now looked at the room and saw it a little bit differently. Yeah. And picked up on this dynamic, and probably now continues to lead in a way where he makes sure that women aren't being interrupted. Yeah. So that's one example of steps we've taken, and I'm proud to say I think from women in leadership roles at the company, we're in one of the healthiest positions we've been in my 9 years that we've been here.
Awesome, so I like it.
More to do, but we're on a good path.
We're on a good path, and of course, when people talk about the dynamics of gender, etc., one of the things that rears its ugly head is in terms of pay transparency and equal pay. Yeah. Is this a big deal right now across the world? And what are the best practices around fixing that?
I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So I think there's different laws and regulations in different parts of the world around pay transparency. One thing you can start doing is not really basing any of the conversation on what you are making today. Meaning, so if I have I'm just making it up, an engineering job, and I'm talking to a candidate, do I really care if what you're making right now? Shouldn't I be paying you for this job? What the market pays for this job? Yeah. So if you make $100,000, and this job might pay $130. Right. I have seen in my distant past, not at LinkedIn, that some of the mentality be like, oh, that person's making $100,000. We could probably get them for $105,000, or maybe $110,000. When the market could bear, or we could actually pay the person higher. Yeah. So don't focus the pay discussion and negotiation on like, hey, where are you coming from in terms of pay? It's really about the job the person's going to be doing. Yeah. So that's one step towards sort of not being caught up in what I think is a dynamic where there was a lot of people that were underpaid, and it was less about, do you have the skills to do this job and get paid for it today?
Yeah, I think I've seen that where it's actually embedded into recruiters' contracts in one way or the other, that try and get in the talent at the lowest price point type thing. And
it's a bad idea.
That's a really bad idea, right? Because you're looking for the best talent and pay them what they're worth.
That's right.
That's it. All right, I like that.
So we have a couple of, firstly, some great fabulous locations joining us. So we have Addis Ababa, we have Johannesburg. Yep. We have plenty of people saying that they're in India, plenty of people from Africa as well. We have a couple of questions in relation to, I suppose, education and knowledge. An interesting one from Angie, who works actually in Chicago, a Kenyan working in Chicago.
Angie.
And says that there is still a huge lack of knowledge and understanding on how to use the platform by many professionals on the continent. What can LinkedIn do to help bridge this knowledge gap?
In terms of members?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. One, I think we need to make sure that the product is as simple and intuitive as it possibly can be. So I think there's product stuff, and I'll leave that to our wonderful product folks to continue to do, because I think the product has gotten better and better. Right. And a couple things we've done is we've focused a lot on students. Yeah. So the shift towards universities several years ago, We lowered the age to get onto LinkedIn.
Right.
We now have high schools on secondary education institutions on LinkedIn, which I think helps. And what we're starting to see is by doing that, even in high school levels, teachers are starting to think and talk about what skills are these students going to need to have either go on to university or go into the job market. And then surely on university campuses, it's becoming a huge part of motivation for professors and career centers, because their motivation is to have their graduates be employed.
That's it.
So that dynamic definitely helps. And then we often are thinking about, what are the either nonprofit organizations, some could be NGOs, they could be government organizations with whom we can partner with, and use their sort of their
reach and
distribution to get the value of LinkedIn out there to potential members. It's a journey. I mean, we've got between 600 and 700 million people on the platform today. There's 3.3 billion people in the global workforce. We want everyone on LinkedIn so we can help them advance economically. So it's we still have work to do.
Yeah. And I think also beyond just, people building out profiles on the platform, is to start having a narrative, start showing what you're really passionate about, start talking about some of the skill sets you've had, start sharing experiences, start sharing some of the best practices that you've come into. The more you educate, the better your network reach grows, and of course, the more it will attract more people on the platform. Okay. Do we have an online question, or can I jump into one of my own?
One more online question.
All right, great.
Pivoting topics slightly and coming around TA process.
Yes.
And pipelining great talents. I'm wondering, what does LinkedIn do in terms of talent pipelining, and are there any tips for best practice in terms of how to keep great candidates warm?
Such a good question.
Good question there.
I probably should call some people and phone a friend for this answer. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. So I would generally say, and I don't want to sound like it's LinkedIn can solve everything, but my philosophy is, if you use the data on LinkedIn effectively, so you can get down to a pool of candidates who you want to know indefinitely, that's the goal. So for me, even if it's a high volume job or maybe it's a mid-level management job, really spending time to understand what with the hiring manager, what needs to be hired. Once you go out and build a pool of people, I would actually put not a limit on it, but like get a manageable size pool of people. To the idea that, maybe I want to find the best 200 people that are really, really, really look like they could do this job right the second walk in the door. Those 200 people I want to know forever. I'm not thinking about them transactionally. They're 200 people. Maybe I need to make one hire in the next month. Cool.
Okay.
But once you've got those people identified, make sure that next time you need to source for that role, you go back to that pool of 200. A lot of times I see recruiters begin sourcing like with a blank sheet of paper, so to speak, starting the process over and over again. Build a pool that you're going to nurture forever. And find a way to build relationships with them over time. Play the long game with those candidates, rather than thinking about, all right, I need to send out 1,000 in-mails over the next year to make my hires. I'd rather say, who are the best 200 people? Spend the time to figure that out. And by the way, you can pick up a lot of signals on LinkedIn that will give you that information. If you do a search in LinkedIn Recruiter, things that pop up are, out of those 200, what percentage of them know people at the company, know people in my network?
Okay.
What percentage of them are following your company? That's valuable to know. What percentage of them have liked a piece of content? So you have signals that you can come back to that pool and nurture. Just don't start fresh over and over again.
Every single time,
And then lastly, I would say distribute that work. So if with those 200 people, maybe it's an engineering manager I'm going to look to hire, I might also be like, Stuart, as a recruiter supporting engineering, you own these 5. Let me give you the background. You own these 5. You own these 5.
Distributed.
You own these 5. Yeah. And I'm going to check in with you every quarter. Because I feel like probably 25-30% of any given hiring manager's life should be dedicated professionally to hiring. So just because they don't have a job open today and they have 5 potential candidates, that's part of their job to know that talent market. So don't insist that you as a recruiter need to do the heavy lifting. No, definitely not.
And I think the one point that comes out there is that when you're nurturing, of course, is to be transparent with the candidate. I might not have a role for you today, but I'm trying to get to know you. I'm trying to get to know what your career aspirations are.
Yeah.
And when something does come up, you're going to be one of the people I reach out to.
It's funny you say that, because I get a lot of very poor outreach from recruiters, but there was actually one I got last week, and I'm not going to respond to it because I have a dream job. But the person said just that. Yeah. Just that, and it's the one in mail recently that I read in full, because it wasn't like, I want to transact. Here's a job. Do you want a job? Yeah. It was, I want to know you. I don't even know if I have anything right now. I was like, that is a very smart approach.
Yeah, it's human.
We've got a great question in here from Mugo. Doesn't say where he's coming from, but he's asking us a question around about what is LinkedIn doing to help adequately qualified candidates who skirt around the formal job sector because of socio-economic issues such as immigration, refugee status, or something like that. Most of these candidates end up working in sectors that they didn't study in and were not qualified in, but have gaps in their CVs as a result. And how can LinkedIn help them feel included?
That's a heavy one.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So is the question those that are sort of marginalized through the...
So people who have the qualifications, but through the likes of being refugee status or things like that, that they have time out of the workforce and gaps in their CVs as a result.
Yeah. Broadly speaking, my belief is that if someone has the skills for a job, whether that was in the past or currently, or have a gap in their CVs, they're very employable. So I think the good news is in certain parts of the world, the economics are good, and the labor markets are one in which there's a lot of jobs available and not that many. There's talent shortage actually. So I think companies need to get extremely serious about that. Also, because a lot of folks that may be the marginalized or in situations socioeconomically where they have gaps in their background, in many ways, depending on what the company's doing, they're very valuable employees in terms of either that product or that service. So depending, there are large populations of the world that are underserved in terms of employment, but yet they might be buyers of the product that the company, or buyers of the service.
That's right.
So, I think about that in terms of diversity all the time. Is like, we want to serve every member of the global workforce. Someone who's a refugee is also a member of the global workforce. I need to understand what their situation is, and then we need to build products and services that are going to help that population. We need to help plumbers and electricians. We probably need to hire some plumbers and electricians that can help us think about what product and services do people in that demographic need. So I think if you're in recruiting, ask your hiring managers, or ask the business, who are our core customers? Is this population that maybe has gaps in their backgrounds, are they someone who are going to be a buyer of our service or a stakeholder in our business, or user of our product? And I think there's plenty of times where the answer to that is yes, and then that becomes a motivation to say, great, why don't we have a recruiting strategy
around that?
To hire and train those people.
I like that. One of the questions that I was asked a little bit earlier on was, as a talent acquisition professional, one of the veins of life is working with hiring managers. How do we get better at this, managing expectations around finding that unicorn candidate? What are your advice to talent acquisition professionals about working with hiring managers? Should they be recruiting in the first place?
I think they should be recruiting.
Okay.
If you ask me at different points in my recruiting career, I'd be like, I got this. I don't want you talking to my candidates, kind of thing. I'll do all of it. Now I have the complete opposite point of view, which is share the burden of the work for sure. And frankly, it's not lost on me that, if we're hiring great salespeople for the African region, someone's probably going to respond more positively to you as my hiring manager than to me. So I have a small enough ego to understand that. So that's important. There's probably three things I would share. Second is language and how to talk to hiring managers, and it's largely around holding hiring managers to account,
Okay.
and expressing when you're concerned.
Okay.
So I can guarantee if there's any recruiters out there, things like, hey, has your hiring manager ever blew off a meeting with you? Has your hiring manager ever not filled out feedback on a candidate? Has your hiring manager ever rescheduled that interview twice and it's protracted the interview process? But
job description.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just, I teach our team, use the language of I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So if you are actually concerned, literally walk by that person's desk or call them up and just say, hey, Stuart, it's Brendan.
Yeah.
I'm concerned. Do not say anything else. It's like literally just stop talking.
That's it. I'm concerned.
Sometimes I put the phone on mute because I'm like, this is going to be awkward. Because you want the person to be drawn into the conversation.
That's right.
You know,
Hey,
I'm serious about my business here. Aren't you serious about getting this job filled?
Yeah.
I am in fact concerned. And naturally it's like, whoa, Brendan, why
What's
are you concerned?
What's going on?
And then I would say something like, hey, well, look, you've rescheduled this interview twice.
Yeah.
You've been all over the team to get this job filled. You're putting a huge amount of pressure on me. This is now backed it out 2 weeks. I'm really concerned not only that you're not going to get your job filled so you can get revenue targets hit.
That's right.
We're probably going to lose this candidate. It's a bad candidate experience. Oh, and by the way, in our case, they're also a member. So we should think members first.
Members first, yeah.
So just find your voice in explaining to hiring managers how you feel about things.
Right.
And then on the the purple squirrel kind of thing, I mean, the good news is LinkedIn helps out with that a ton. I mean, particularly in these very, I need someone who's a PhD in bioinformatics, who speaks French, but also worked in Japan and went to Oxford and can manage, but also can be hands-on, that type of stuff, which I'm sure people listening can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Pull that data on LinkedIn. It takes you a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then share that. I mean, one example I could share is, and can share this slide with folks at some point.
Okay, yeah.
When we were scaling a bunch of data centers, we needed a certain type of sort of infrastructure engineers. And at the time, in a certain region, there were only 7 that we could find sort of in the world on LinkedIn at the time.
Oh, wow. 7.
7.
Okay.
And we shared just this slide that just basically had this little chart that said 7 and like, here's the pool. And the executive just couldn't believe, like, it started, I can't believe this. This can't be right.
Yeah.
They called their managers into the room, and it changed the dynamic in the conversation completely because then we could say, all right, well, either we can do this search, it might take us 3 years literally to get one of them, or maybe we need to think about different geographies, or maybe it's 2 jobs, or maybe it's at a different level, or can you relax some of the requirements on these skills here and train on them. So those are 3 sort of different scenarios I'd throw out there that aren't terribly difficult. They just take a lot of practice.
It's practice. Yeah. The more you do it, the better the relationship. Got a question coming in from online.
Yeah, so we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions, I think.
All right.
But we do have a couple of questions coming in around the area of soft skills, and that they are becoming more and more important nowadays. And what would be your advice for the top soft skills that you would see being important?
Well, if the question is what skills I deem important, I think that I think adaptability is massive. I mean, you could pick up. There's lots of synonyms out there for it, but being able to adapt, I think, and be flexible, I think, is really important because any job is just in a busy company is freaking difficult. I mean, it's like, it's up and down. You're gonna have headaches. You're gonna have heartaches.
Yeah.
You're gonna be upset. You're gonna be frustrated. Like, that is the nature. And you're gonna have high points and low points. That is the nature of it.
Yeah.
If you can't flex with that, you're probably gonna be really unhappy and pretty darn miserable. And then it's adaptability in terms of skill building and hey, I need to learn some new skills. So adaptability to quickly pick up new things, I think, is key. And then the other 2 I would say are communication. I look at all the mistakes I've made. I mean, I would say probably 98% of them are communication based at a certain area. Like at the core, it gets down to like, I didn't either communicate quickly enough or effectively enough or clearly enough, or I was too soft or too hard about it. So I think really not calling the need to communicate. And in my experience, like, there's no way you can over communicate. So and then right on the back of that is collaboration. I mean, there's nothing we do here at LinkedIn that you just do by yourself.
And part of that is knowing who to
ask for help.
Yeah.
I think is important. And then I would say underlying that is just trying to be as sort of honest as you can. I mean, if you're nervous, afraid, scared, behind, whatever it is,
call it out.
Call it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, my experience is the quicker I can call out, like, hey, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Or this is not going to go well.
Right.
And every time that I've done that quickly, my boss or my boss's boss would say, okay, I'm glad I know that.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What do you need?
Yeah.
Anytime I've delayed that,
yeah,
it gets worse and worse by the hour, the day, or the week. Because you never want to be in this situation, I always say, of like, because it's happened to me and it's been painful. You know, hey, I sort of need to let you know that this thing happened. And it was a real mess. And then you say, oh, how long have you known this? I mean, if I say I've known this for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, for a month, that is not good.
Yeah. Share bad news early, right?
Share bad news early and you will get the help you need is my philosophy.
I love that. All these soft skills which machines can't do, right?
They cannot.
In the era that we're going in. So if we harness those soft skills of collaborating, communicating, and coordinating stuff, you'll be more geared for success.
You got it.
Okay, so soft skills, there you are. To learn hard skills. If you had to name your top 3 hard skills for talent acquisition professionals to master in this new era that we're in, what would those 3 be?
I would get familiar with data tools.
Okay, data tools, number 1. Hope you got that, folks.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest one.
Okay.
I mean, I think if it's the people that are like, true Excel powerhouse, I'm talking, people that might have come out of investment banking and that sort of thing.
Right.
Tools like Tableau and other things like that, and data visualization tools, I think, are really, really, really important.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a core requirement for some jobs, but it will differentiate you in
from the rest,
big way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other 2?
Let's see, hard skills. I actually think most of them end up going to be soft skills.
Yeah. Because a lot of it is going to be done by the technologies that we have available in this era.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other one last question from our online community?
Over to you for the one last question.
If you had an elevator moment with a talent acquisition young person, what would you tell them to start and what would you tell them to stop doing?
Okay. I would tell them to stop worrying.
Yeah.
And stop trying to please people.
Okay.
You don't need to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one bucket.
Okay.
And then in terms of the start, I would say start letting people know when you're concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, it all ties into that. Communicate quickly about what you are experiencing, what's going on, or what you're feeling as it relates to your recruiting and the job you're doing with your stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going home on the train or something, you're like, I really probably should tell Stuart that thing.
Yeah.
Or like send him that email. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just grit your teeth if you have to. If it's like this could just do it, because you will get the response that is very positive and it moves the business forward.
Yeah.
So, time kills deals, and I think generally time can kill good decisions. So if your instinct is I need to send an email to Stuart about that thing, then you have good instincts. I find that recruiters have incredible instincts. It's just a matter of developing, if you don't have some of these communication skills, practice it. Grab a friend, do some role playing, as goofy as that might sound. Just do it, because you will be a differentiated recruiter. You can be a recruiting leader over time. You can have my job. You do those things well. I think there's so many directions you can take this career.
I love it. There you are, guys. That was it. That's the summary of our call. It's been fabulous talking to you.
It's been fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for participating. Africa, you can also find Brendan. Oh, just before we finish, you do have a YouTube channel, Talent on Tap.
Talent on Tap. Yeah, you can check it out. We talk talent there, largely around recruitment and talent acquisition. So feel free to check it out and check out some best practices.
And feel free also to share some of your best practices
Please.
Got to have that growth mindset, continuously learning, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks, for participating. Those who are asking questions, I truly, truly appreciate your time as much as I appreciate yours. And John, I know you're off camera, but thanks for fielding those questions for us. Guys, it's time to shine as an individual. This is your time. This is the right platform. Get started. Have an awesome weekend. And thanks a lot for joining us online. Cheers. All right.